Pyro's in the house. Fire, fire, fire.
That night, with a fresh scratch on his chin, Arthur headed into the bar, deciding he didn't want to cook for just himself. It was a lot of work. Hi, Brigga. He greeted the dwarf behind the bar as he sat down. Hey, Artie. What you gonna have? Could I get a pint and some stew? Arthur asked. Sure thing, Brigga replied, reaching up to pat Arthur's head. So how'd the big talk go with your brother, they asked, filling a tankard. Arthur sighed and shrugged. He said maybe we put it on hold till next year, which wasn't a no, which is better than I expected, Arthur said, taking the pint from Brigga. That's the spirit, Brigga replied. You'll get there eventually, Arthur. You're just like a sponge for magical knowledge, and once you're awakened, I know for a fact you're going to be big. Maybe even a mark one day. As they were talking, Malthus came over and sat down beside Arthur, a whiskey glass in his hand. Speaking of Arthur, his stuff's on me, the elf insisted, putting down some scala. Brigga nodded. Arthur smiled. Thanks. Malthus said. Brigga grabbed the scala and a bowl of I can speak English. Jesus fucking Christ. I wrote this. I should be better at this.
You're doing great.
And a bowl of stew soon followed. He offered his glass to Arthur, and Arthur tapped his own against it. May Magi keep us from making drunken fools of ourselves. Here, here. Arthur left the tavern, his cheeks flushed from the booze. He paused, feeling that weird sensation again. He shivered, looking around. The looming crystals needed to be replaced, their light dimmer than normal, but at least the rain had finally stopped, a pleasant drip, drip, drip coming off of the roofs and eaves of the small town. He looked towards the town hall, the fire pit shining out the doors, always open except during the darkest days of winter. It was oddly comforting at night, and the smell of spices burning in the fire floated over the village. He pulled his collar up around his chin, stepping away from the warmth and the light of the bar and into the square. It was only a 10-minute walk to his and Alistair's house, right on the edge of the woods, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Had he had too much to drink? That didn't seem right, but he walked to the well in the center of the square and dropped the bucket into the hole, waiting to hear the splash. Arthur, a voice rang out behind him, oddly familiar but different. That uneasy feeling was now deeper in his stomach. Arthur turned, his hand drifting to his knife. He lowered it. Across the square was a man that Arthur knew. His hand... One sec, sorry. I lost my place. I am sorry. That Arthur knew. His grandfather's brother. But it was like he'd been dipped in ink. His once silvery blonde hair dark and ashy, and a great staff with a wicked-looking gem sitting on top of it, standing in his left hand. Staying beside him were 4 imperial marks. But it was definitely his great-uncle. Uncle Jowl? He asked, his face scrunched. He hadn't seen his great-uncle for more than 8 years, not since before his parents had died. He assumed that he and his husband had moved away. Hi, Arthur finally offered. That is a bad sentence. Hi, Arthur finally offered, still keeping a cautious look on his face. Jowl's face twitched. Hello, Arthur. It's been a few years. You're all grown up now, Jowl said, offering a sickly sweet smile. Well, Arthur looked around and took a small step back. That smile didn't look right, like he was forcing it. Jowl's face dropped and he beckoned. Come here and let me take a good look at you. Arthur hesitated. He didn't like the look of the soldiers. The masks were definitely the masks of marks, who were elite magical warriors who served the Imperial High Mage. Arthur, you're being rude. Arthur cringed. He didn't like being rude, especially to family, but that feeling was shouting at him. Not your family, not your family. This is wrong. Something's wrong. There was a bubbling in his chest like something was fighting to get out. Where's Uncle Theo? He finally asked. Jowl winced. We can talk about that later. Come here. 2 more marks joined the group, and Arthur looked around. He could make a run for the bar or for his house. He was pretty fast. The mark handed Hijalte the scroll from the shed. Ed, Arthur's brow raised. What were they doing in the shed? Hijalte, we found this. The town seems to be making deals with the rebellion, the mark said. Ed and Hijalte grabbed the scroll and briefly scanned it. This can wait, he said. Arthur, come here, now. No, I want answers. Why are they calling you Hijalte? Arthur didn't know how to stall, but he puffed his chest up. He didn't like confrontation. Alistair was definitely better at it than he was. He saw one of the mark's hands move, and suddenly he was on his back. Oh, a crave, he yelped, winded. Something was holding his ankle and dragging him towards them. Let go, he yelled, kicking at the thing on his ankle, his hands trying to dig into the packed dirt of the town square. Danger, danger, the feeling screamed. Then it felt like he'd been dunked in ice, and a flash of light blinded him, but it was also around him for some reason. The dragging stopped, and Arthur scrambled to his feet, panting and rubbing at his eyes. Motherfucker! Somebody grab him! And there was more shouting, and Arthur stumbled back, trying to clear the sparkles out of his vision. He blinked just in time to be hit in the side with a mace, one of his ribs crunching underneath it. He gasped in pain, doubling over. It blossomed up his side, and breathing now hurt. Alive, you morons, Hijalte snapped. He's useless to us dead. Yes, Hijalte, one of them said, grabbing Arthur's arm. Wait, no. Arthur insisted as they tried to pull him over to Hajalte and the other marks, his heels digging into the ground. No, he shouted, trying to jerk his arm back. Arthur! Idulus shouted, grabbing Arthur by the cloak and yanking him back and out of the mark's grip, up the stairs of the town hall, and all but tossing him inside like a rag doll. Arthur stumbled, still trying to regain his breath. The doors of the hall slammed behind them. Two more of the council members, Rohan and Gwen, slammed a heavy oak beam across them. Ring the bells, beginning evacuation, Idulus ordered. Lad, are you hurt? I'll be fine, Arthur managed, finally catching his breath and looking around. Those are marks. The white light. Did I do that? Yeah. Good job, Gwen said, as the bells started ringing. Didn't think they'd send the Imperial High Mage all the way out to the boonies for a couple supply sales. Why are there? Arthur paused, trying to keep from freaking out and failing. Imperial marks here at Council of Camelius, Hajalte's voice rang out, cutting Arthur off. I am the Grand Imperial Mage, Hajalte. Yeah. Damn, I love alliteration for some reason. Acting in accordance with our laws. You are being found guilty of treason and of interfering with an Imperial operation. If you and Arthur Bjornsson come out, we will show mercy. Eat shit and die, Gwen muttered. The other council members seemed to be in agreement. Arthur, meanwhile, was staring at his hands before he processed the words. Treason? Arthur asked, his voice show. What did you do? Who? Not now, Arthur, Gwen said. Ed. Wait, no, I'm a Bjornsson. My father was chief. My brother is a chief. I have a right to know, Arthur squeaked, trying to make himself sound bigger and more confident. Gwen scoffed. Because of the Empire's insane quotas, Camelios needed money and we couldn't afford to trade with the rest of the Marish. Yada yada. So I made a deal with the rebellion and we've been selling our minuscule surplus to them. What? Arthur whispered before repeating it. What? Idulus put his hand on his shoulder as Arthur stared at all of them. That's treason. Treason against an unjust regime is just doing the right thing, Gwen replied. No clue why he wants you, though. We kept Alistair pretty much out of the loop, so you're not good to be a hostage. Gwen, Idulus snapped. Gwen shrugged, and then there was a thud on the door. Idulus walked over to a rug, lifting it up to reveal a trapdoor. Arthur, you need to go north, find your grandfather, and stay with him. Stay away from Hajalte. I don't know who that is, but it's not Jal anymore. Wait, but Arthur, you need to get out of here. I don't know why he wants you, but it can't be good, Idulus insisted. We'll find Alistair and send him your way. Just stay safe. He lifted the trapdoor, shoving a lantern into Arthur's hands. Go. But what about you? We'll be fine. We made our bed, Idulus insisted. There was another thud at the door. The older man picked Arthur up by his shoulders and dropped him onto the ladder. Arthur nodded, swallowing and beginning to climb down the ladder into the darkness. The trapdoor slammed shut above him, and Arthur could hear something being dragged over it. He stared up at the unforgiving wood. Lila, protect us all, he whispered, turning to look down the long hallway ahead of him. There were mushrooms and lichen growing in the cracks, and some lumen crystals were in the cracks of the stone as well, filling the space with a pale yellow glow. He exhaled, trying to calm down. Then he heard the sickening crunch and groan of the doors being ripped off their hinges, and the feeling of danger, run, was back in his stomach. He coughed, cringing. It could also be the broken rib. Okay, we go north, find either grandfather or my uncle, and they tell me what the Akrave is going on, and we go get Alistair and fix everything, he said to himself. Go north, find my family, go fix everything, he repeated, starting to walk down the tunnel, his hand tracing along the wall. Go north, find my family, go fix everything, he repeated, trying to calm himself down. He could figure everything out after he found his family. Well, the non-evil parts of his family. After what seemed like forever, Arthur finally left the tunnel. The acrid smell of smoke immediately hit his nose, and he turned in the direction he had come from. No, he whispered, his voice catching. No. The wicked orange glow of a fire was billowing up from Camelios, smoke pouring into the forest around the town. In the sky above, Arthur could see a zeppelin circling, and his heart dropped into his stomach, and he fell onto his knees, trying to catch his breath, trying to stay calm, trying not to think the worst. The council had said they were going to evacuate people, and the bells had rung. It had to be okay. Arthur tried his best not to panic any further, finally managed to stand up and start walking. Okay, I don't have any supplies, so I'll go to Tadpole Rill. Percifer likes Alistair. I'm sure he can help me, he said, looking up and looking for the two moons. Valnor is in the east, and Valnor is in the west, so if I follow Valnor... He trailed off, realizing there was no reason to be speaking out loud. He finished the maths in his head before setting out into the woods. He kept the lantern low and pulled his hood up. His cracked rib throbbed and he cringed. He should also maybe see a doctor. But he could do this.